The humid Manila air clung to Manny Pacquiao's skin as he stepped out of his black SUV in the crowded streets of Tondo. He had come to visit the old wildcard gym branch where he first trained as a teenager, now converted into a community center. The familiar sounds of the neighborhood filled his ears, children playing, vendors calling out their wares, and the distant hum of jeepneys navigating the narrow roads. As he walked toward the building, memories of his early boxing days flooded back, when every punch thrown was fueled by hunger and desperation. A small crowd had already gathered, recognizing the 8-division world champion despite his simple white t-shirt and jeans. Manny smiled and waved, his trademark humility shining through as he greeted familiar faces from his past. The community center director, Mrs. Santos, rushed to welcome him, explaining how the facility now served underprivileged youth with boxing programs and educational support. Her voice carried pride as she described the positive impact on local children, many of whom came from the same poverty-stricken backgrounds that once defined Manny's own childhood. As they toured the renovated space, Manny's eyes scanned the training area where heavy bags hung from reinforced beams. Young boxers, some barely teenagers, practiced their combinations with determination that reminded him of his younger self. The sound of leather hitting canvas created a rhythmic symphony that transported him back to those grueling training sessions when he was just another hungry kid with impossible dreams. Mrs. Santos mentioned how they struggled to keep some of the older participants engaged, particularly those who had fallen into bad habits on the streets. The conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. Through the glass doors, Manny could see a thin, disheveled man arguing with security guards who were trying to prevent him from entering. The man's movements were erratic, his clothes dirty and torn, and his voice carried the desperate edge of someone in withdrawal. Something about his posture, the way he held his hands, struck a chord of recognition in Manny's memory. The security guards were becoming more aggressive, threatening to call the police if the man didn't leave immediately. Mrs. Santos sighed deeply, explaining that this particular individual had been causing problems for weeks, trying to enter the facility in various states of intoxication. She described how they had tried to help him before, but his addiction had made him unpredictable and sometimes aggressive toward the children. The staff had reluctantly banned him from the premises for everyone's safety, though it clearly pained them to turn away someone who obviously needed help. Manny listened intently, his champion's instincts telling him there was more to this story than met the eye. As the argument outside escalated, the man turned toward the window, and Manny's breath caught in his throat. Despite the ravages of addiction and years of hard living, he recognized the face immediately. It was Rico Mendoza, his former sparring partner from the early 2000s. Rico had been one of the most talented fighters in their training camp, a southpaw with lightning-fast hands who had pushed Manny to his limits during countless sessions. The recognition hit like a physical blow, and Manny felt his heart sink as he realized how far his old training partner had fallen from the promising young boxer he once knew. Manny's mind raced back to the wildcard gym in Hollywood, where he and Rico had spent countless hours perfecting their craft under Freddie Roach's watchful eye. Rico had been brought in specifically to help Manny prepare for his fights against other southpaws, and their sparring sessions had become legendary among the gym regulars. The Filipino fighter remembered how Rico's unorthodox style and unpredictable combinations had forced him to evolve his own technique, making him a more complete fighter. Those sessions had been brutal but necessary, each man pushing the other to heights they couldn't reach alone. Rico had possessed natural talent that many fighters would kill for. His footwork was poetry in motion, and his ability to slip punches seemed almost supernatural. Manny recalled how Freddie would often use Rico as an example for other fighters, praising his defensive skills and ring intelligence. The two had developed a mutual respect that transcended their roles as sparring partners, often sharing meals after training and discussing their dreams of championship glory. Rico had spoken passionately about returning to the Philippines as a champion, wanting to inspire kids from his hometown of Cebu, just as Manny was doing for General Santos City. The bond between them had deepened during Manny's preparation for the Oscar De La Hoya fight in 2008. Rico had been instrumental in helping Manny develop the specific strategies that would later prove crucial in that historic victory. They had spent weeks studying De La Hoya's footage together, with Rico mimicking the Golden Boy's style so perfectly that it sometimes felt like Manny was fighting the real thing. After each session, they would sit on the gym steps, ice packs on their faces, talking about their families back home and the responsibilities that came with their growing success. But somewhere along the way, Rico's career had stalled while Manny's skyrocketed to international stardom. Manny remembered the last time he had seen Rico at the gym. It was before the Miguel Cotto fight in 2009. Rico had seemed different then, more withdrawn and bitter, complaining about not getting the opportunities he deserved despite his skills. There had been whispers among the gym staff about Rico's increasing absences and erratic behavior, but Manny had been too focused on his own preparation to pay proper attention. The guilt of that oversight now weighed heavily on his conscience as he watched his former friend struggle outside the community center. The contrast between their current situations was stark and painful. While Manny had gone on to become one of the greatest boxers of all time, earning hundreds of millions of dollars and global recognition, Rico had apparently fallen into the dark world of addiction. Manny wondered what had gone wrong. What series of events had led his talented friend down such a destructive path? He thought about all the times Rico had helped him prepare for the biggest fights of his career, how his friend's sacrifice and skill had contributed to Manny's success in ways that the public would never know. Standing there in the community center, watching Rico being turned away by security, Manny felt a profound sense of responsibility. This wasn't just about helping a former colleague. This was about honoring the brotherhood they had shared in those grueling training sessions. Rico had been there during some of the most important moments of Manny's career development, and now it was time for Manny to be there for Rico. The champion knew that true greatness wasn't just measured by titles won or money earned, but by how you treated those who had helped you along the way. Without hesitation, Manny walked toward the entrance, his presence immediately changing the dynamic of the confrontation. The security guards stepped back respectfully as they recognized the boxing legend, while Rico's agitated movements slowed as confusion crossed his weathered features. Manny approached slowly, his hands visible and non-threatening, the way he had learned to approach cornered opponents who might lash out unpredictably. The crowd that had gathered to watch the disturbance fell silent, sensing they were witnessing something significant unfold before their eyes. Rico's eyes widened with disbelief as recognition dawned on his drug-addled mind. His body trembled. Whether from withdrawal or emotion, Manny couldn't tell. But the fighter's instincts were still there as Rico unconsciously shifted into a defensive stance. Manny spoke softly in Tagalog, using the nickname he had given Rico years ago during their sparring sessions. Lightning, because of his incredibly fast hands. The sound of his old nickname seemed to break through Rico's defensive walls, and tears began streaming down his gaunt cheeks as the reality of his situation crashed over him. The security guards looked to Mrs. Santos for guidance, unsure how to proceed now that Manny Pacquiao himself was involved. Manny gently placed his hand on Rico's shoulder, feeling how thin and frail his once powerful friend had become. He could see the track marks on Rico's arms, the yellowed teeth, and the hollow look in his eyes that spoke of months or perhaps years of substance abuse. Yet beneath all the physical deterioration, Manny could still see glimpses of the proud, talented fighter who had once pushed him to be better in the ring. Rico tried to speak, but his words came out as broken sobs, a mixture of shame, relief, and desperate hope. He attempted to explain his situation, how injuries had ended his boxing career, how the pain medication had led to harder drugs, how he had lost everything including his family's respect. Manny listened without judgment, his own eyes filling with tears as he heard the familiar story of so many fighters who had fallen through the cracks of a sport that could be as cruel as it was rewarding. The champion understood that Rico's addiction wasn't a moral failing, but a disease that had consumed a good man who had simply run out of options. Mrs. Santos approached cautiously, her earlier frustration with Rico replaced by compassion as she witnessed this unexpected reunion. Manny explained to her and the gathered crowd that Rico had been his sparring partner and friend, someone who had contributed significantly to his success in the ring. He spoke about Rico's talent and character, painting a picture of the man Rico had been before addiction took hold of his life. The community center director's expression softened as she realized they weren't dealing with just another troubled addict, but with someone who had once been part of boxing royalty. The crowd that had gathered began to murmur among themselves, some recognizing Rico's name from old boxing magazines and websites. Manny made a decision that would change both their lives. He announced that he was taking Rico with him, not as charity but as an act of brotherhood between fighters who had shared blood, sweat, and dreams in the ring. He looked directly into Rico's eyes and promised that this was not the end of his story, but rather the beginning of a new chapter. The sincerity in Manny's voice and the determination in his eyes left no doubt that he meant every word he spoke. Manny's first call was to his wife, Jinky, explaining the situation with characteristic directness and asking for her support in helping Rico. Jinky, who had seen her husband's generous heart lead him to help countless people over the years, immediately agreed to assist in any way possible. She suggested contacting Dr. Martinez, a rehabilitation specialist who had worked with several Filipino athletes struggling with addiction, and offered to prepare one of their guest rooms for Rico's initial recovery period. Her immediate acceptance of Rico into their home demonstrated the family values that had kept Manny grounded throughout his incredible career. The drive to Manny's residence in Forbes Park was quiet, with Rico staring out the window in disbelief at the turn his day had taken. Manny used the time to make several phone calls, arranging for medical evaluation, contacting rehabilitation facilities, and reaching out to mutual friends from their boxing days who might provide additional support. He also called his longtime trainer, Freddie Roach, who remembered Rico fondly and immediately offered to help in any way possible. The boxing community, despite its competitive nature, had always been a brotherhood when it came to helping fallen fighters. Upon arriving at the Pacquiao residence, Rico was overwhelmed by the warmth of the reception. Jinky greeted him with genuine kindness, while their children, though initially curious about the stranger, quickly accepted him as part of their extended family. Manny showed Rico to a comfortable guest room, complete with clean clothes, toiletries, and a view of the garden where he could find peace during his recovery. The contrast between this sanctuary and the streets where Rico had been living was so stark that he broke down crying again, unable to comprehend such generosity from someone he hadn't seen in over a decade. Dr. Martinez arrived within hours, conducting a thorough medical evaluation and outlining a comprehensive treatment plan. Rico's addiction was severe, requiring both medical detoxification and long-term psychological support, but the doctor was optimistic about his chances, given the strong support system Manny was providing. The physician explained that Rico's boxing background actually worked in his favor. Fighters were accustomed to discipline, pain, and the mental toughness required for recovery. Manny listened intently to every detail, asking questions and taking notes like he was preparing for the most important fight of his career. That evening, as Rico went through the initial stages of withdrawal under medical supervision, Manny sat beside his bed, sharing stories from their training days. He reminded Rico of specific sparring sessions, particular combinations they had worked on, and the dreams they had shared about bringing honor to the Philippines through boxing. Manny spoke about how Rico's contributions to his training had helped him win world titles, making Rico an indirect part of boxing history. These conversations served a dual purpose. They helped Rico remember who he had been before addiction, while also demonstrating that his life had meaning and value beyond his current struggles. The Pacquiao household adjusted to accommodate Rico's needs, with family members taking turns checking on him and providing encouragement. Jimuel and Michael, Manny's sons, were particularly fascinated by Rico's stories about their father's early training days, creating an unexpected bond between the recovering addict and the next generation of Pacquiaos. Jinky prepared special meals designed to help Rico regain his strength, while Princess and Queen Elizabeth drew pictures to decorate his room and lift his spirits. The entire family's involvement in Rico's recovery demonstrated the Filipino values of kapamilya, treating others as family, regardless of blood relations. As Rico's physical withdrawal symptoms began to subside after several days of medical supervision, the real work of psychological recovery began. Dr. Martinez introduced Rico to a counselor who specialized in addiction among athletes, someone who understood the unique pressures and identity issues that fighters faced when their careers ended. The sessions were difficult, forcing Rico to confront the pain, disappointment, and sense of worthlessness that had driven him to drugs in the first place. Manny often sat in on these sessions when possible, providing moral support and helping Rico remember his worth as both a fighter and a human being. The rehabilitation process revealed the depth of Rico's fall from grace. He had lost contact with his family in Cebu, had been living on the streets for months, and had burned bridges with most of his former friends and colleagues. His boxing career had ended abruptly due to a detached retina, an injury that not only ended his dreams, but also left him with chronic pain that doctors had treated with increasingly powerful medications. The transition from prescription painkillers to street drugs had been gradual but inevitable, especially as Rico struggled with depression and the loss of his identity as a fighter. Manny took it upon himself to help Rico rebuild not just his health, but his entire life structure. They established a daily routine that included morning runs around the neighborhood, healthy meals, counseling sessions, and evening conversations about goals and aspirations. Manny also arranged for Rico to visit an eye specialist, hoping that advances in medical technology might offer some hope for his vision problems. While the damage was permanent, the doctor assured Rico that he could still live a full and productive life with proper adaptation and support. One of the most powerful moments in Rico's recovery came when Manny took him back to visit the Wildcard gym in Hollywood via video call with Freddie Roach. Seeing his old trainer and the familiar surroundings where he had once been respected and valued brought Rico to tears, but they were tears of gratitude rather than despair. Freddie spoke warmly about Rico's contributions to Manny's success and offered him a position helping with the gym's youth programs once he was fully recovered. The offer gave Rico something he had lost, a sense of purpose and a future worth fighting for. As weeks passed, Rico's physical transformation was remarkable. The hollow cheeks filled out, his eyes regained their clarity, and his natural athleticism began to return through regular exercise and proper nutrition. More importantly, his mental state improved dramatically as he began to believe in his own worth again. Manny documented much of this journey, not for publicity, but to create a record of hope that might inspire other fighters struggling with similar issues. The bond between the two men deepened as they worked together toward Rico's recovery, proving that true friendship could survive even the darkest of times. The Pacquiao family's involvement in Rico's recovery became a source of healing for everyone involved. Jinky found fulfillment in nurturing someone back to health, while the children learned valuable lessons about compassion and second chances. Manny himself discovered that helping Rico gave him a sense of purpose that was different from but equally satisfying as his boxing achievements. The experience reminded him that his greatest victories might not be the ones that happened in the ring, but the ones that happened in the quiet moments when he chose to lift up a fallen brother. 3 months into Rico's recovery, Manny made a decision that would capture the world's attention. He invited Rico to accompany him to a press conference for his upcoming exhibition match, not as a publicity stunt, but as a genuine gesture of brotherhood and support. Rico was nervous about appearing in public, worried about judgment and questions about his past, but Manny assured him that they would face whatever came together. The press conference was held at a luxury hotel in Manila, with dozens of international media outlets in attendance, expecting routine questions about training and strategy. When Manny took the podium, he surprised everyone by calling Rico to join him. The room buzzed with confusion as the thin, nervous man approached the microphone, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. Manny placed his arm around Rico's shoulders and began to tell their story. Not just the recent rescue and recovery, but the full history of their relationship and Rico's contributions to his success. He spoke with raw emotion about finding his friend on the streets, about the obligation successful people have to help those who help them reach the top, and about the true meaning of brotherhood in boxing. The moment that would go viral came when a reporter asked Manny why he had risked his reputation by associating with a drug addict. Manny's response was immediate and powerful. He looked directly into the camera and said that Rico wasn't defined by his addiction any more than Manny was defined by his wealth. He explained that Rico had been instrumental in his development as a fighter, that addiction was a disease that could affect anyone, and that turning his back on a friend would have been the real failure of character. His voice carried the conviction of someone speaking absolute truth, and the room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. Rico, overcome with emotion, managed to speak briefly about his gratitude and his commitment to helping other fighters avoid the path he had taken. His voice shook as he thanked Manny not just for saving his life, but for giving him back his dignity and sense of worth. The contrast between the confident champion and the recovering addict created a powerful visual that spoke to the universal themes of redemption, friendship, and second chances. Cameras captured every moment as Rico broke down in tears, with Manny's steady presence providing the support he needed to get through the emotional moment. The video of the press conference spread across social media platforms within hours, with millions of views and thousands of comments praising Manny's character and compassion. Boxing fans around the world shared their own stories of addiction and recovery, while others praised Manny for using his platform to address important social issues. The hashtag "Such a Brotherhood in Boxing" began trending globally, with fighters from all levels sharing stories of how they had helped or been helped by their boxing family. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with even Manny's critics acknowledging the genuine nature of his actions. Major news outlets picked up the story, with feature articles exploring the broader issues of athlete mental health and the responsibility of successful sports figures to help their communities. Rico found himself thrust into an unexpected role as a spokesperson for addiction recovery, receiving messages of support from around the world. The attention was initially overwhelming, but with Manny's guidance, Rico learned to use his story as a tool for helping others. The viral moment had transformed a personal act of kindness into a global conversation about compassion, responsibility, and the true meaning of success. The impact extended far beyond social media, with rehabilitation centers reporting increased inquiries from athletes seeking help for addiction issues. Boxing gyms around the world began implementing support programs for retired fighters, recognizing the need for better transition services when careers ended. Manny and Rico's story had sparked a movement that would help countless other fighters avoid the pitfalls that had nearly destroyed Rico's life, proving that sometimes the most important victories happen outside the ring. The overwhelming response to their story inspired Manny and Rico to formalize their efforts to help struggling fighters. They established the Man's Second Round Foundation, or a non-profit organization dedicated to providing support services for retired boxers dealing with addiction, mental health issues, and financial difficulties. Rico, now 6 months clean and serving as the foundation's director of outreach, threw himself into the work with the same intensity he had once brought to boxing. His personal experience with addiction made him uniquely qualified to connect with fighters who were struggling, and his association with Manny opened doors that would have remained closed to other advocates. The foundation's first major initiative was a comprehensive support program that included medical care, counseling services, job training, and financial assistance for fighters in need. They partnered with rehabilitation centers across the Philippines and the United States, ensuring that help was available regardless of a fighter's location or financial situation. Rico traveled extensively, speaking at boxing gyms and athletic commissions about the warning signs of addiction and the resources available for those seeking help. His transformation from street addict to respected advocate inspired countless others to seek treatment for their own struggles. Manny's involvement in the foundation went far beyond financial support. He personally mentored several recovering fighters, sharing his own experiences with the pressures of professional boxing and the importance of maintaining perspective on what truly mattered in life. He established a scholarship program for the children of struggling fighters, ensuring that the next generation would have educational opportunities regardless of their parents' circumstances. The champion also used his political connections to advocate for better healthcare and pension programs for retired boxers, working to address the systemic issues that contributed to post-career struggles. The foundation's work attracted attention from other sports organizations, leading to partnerships with similar programs in football, basketball, and other high-impact sports. Rico found himself speaking at conferences and seminars, sharing his story with athletes from various disciplines who faced similar challenges when their careers ended. His message was simple but powerful. Addiction didn't discriminate based on talent or success, but recovery was possible with the right support system and determination. The respect he earned in these settings helped restore his sense of self-worth and purpose. One of the most meaningful aspects of the foundation's work was its impact on Rico's relationship with his own family. His sister from Cebu, who had cut off contact during the worst of his addiction, reached out after seeing news coverage of his recovery. The reunion was emotional and healing, with Rico's family expressing pride in his transformation and his new role as an advocate for others. Manny facilitated this reconciliation, understanding that family support was crucial for long-term recovery and that Rico's healing needed to extend beyond just his addiction issues. The foundation also established a crisis hotline staffed by former fighters who had overcome their own struggles, providing immediate support for those in desperate situations. Rico often worked the phones himself, using his story and experience to talk people through their darkest moments. These conversations reminded him daily of how close he had come to losing everything and reinforced his commitment to helping others avoid the same fate. The work was emotionally demanding but deeply fulfilling, giving Rico a sense of purpose that he had lost when his boxing career ended. 2 years after their reunion outside the community center in Tondo, Manny and Rico stood together at the foundation's annual gala, surrounded by dozens of fighters whose lives had been transformed by their programs. The event celebrated not just individual recoveries, but the broader cultural shift in how the boxing community approached mental health and addiction issues. Rico, now serving as the foundation's executive director, had become a respected figure in the sport, his story serving as proof that redemption was possible even in the darkest circumstances. The gala featured testimonials from fighters who had found new purpose through the foundation's programs. Some had become trainers, others had started businesses, and many had simply learned to live fulfilling lives outside the spotlight of professional sports. Manny listened to each story with the same intensity he had once brought to studying opponents, understanding that these victories were more meaningful than any championship belt he had ever won. The room was filled with families who had been reunited, dreams that had been rebuilt, and hope that had been restored through the simple act of one friend refusing to abandon another. Rico's speech that evening was the culmination of his incredible journey from addiction to advocacy. He spoke about the importance of brotherhood in boxing, not just during the glory days, but especially during the struggles that came after. His words carried the weight of lived experience as he described the isolation and despair of addiction, but also the transformative power of unconditional support and genuine friendship. The standing ovation he received was a testament to how far he had come and how many lives he had touched through his work with the foundation. Manny's closing remarks focused on the true meaning of championship, not the titles won or records broken, but the lives touched and the positive impact made on others. He spoke about how finding Rico that day had reminded him of his own responsibilities as someone who had been blessed with success and platform. The champion emphasized that their work was far from over, with new challenges emerging as the sports world grappled with increased awareness of mental health issues and the long-term effects of combat sports on athletes' well-being. The evening concluded with the announcement of the foundation's expansion into other countries, with plans to establish support centers in Mexico, Thailand, and the United Kingdom, all major boxing nations where retired fighters faced similar challenges. Rico would lead this international expansion, his story serving as a universal message of hope that transcended cultural and linguistic barriers. The partnership between Manny and Rico had evolved from a rescue mission into a global movement that would outlast both of their lifetimes. As the gala ended and guests began to leave, Manny and Rico found themselves alone on the venue's balcony, looking out over the Manila skyline. They reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment, from sparring partners pushing each other to greatness, through the dark years of separation and struggle. to their current roles as advocates for change in the boxing world. Rico expressed his gratitude not just for being saved, but for being given the opportunity to save others. Manny smiled and reminded his friend that true champions were measured not by what they achieved for themselves, but by what they made possible for others. In that moment, both men understood that they had found their greatest victory not in any boxing ring, but in the simple act of refusing to let a brother fall and stay down. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to our channel.